We know you guys liked our previous video about opening bosses that completely wiped the floor with us, so we thought we'd hit you up with part 2. This time we look at 10 more bad guys that were huge roadblocks very early in the game. Is it a case of us just sucking or an overconfident developer? Who knows, but here are 10 more opening bosses that completely wiped the floor with us. The Surge gave us Dark Souls gameplay in a futuristic setting. We all know those games are very challenging, and the developers of The Surge weren't kidding around either. The very first boss is called Pax and is incredibly difficult. After dying a few times, we finally discover this battle is actually more of a puzzle.
Subjugation authorized. Reboot initialized.
When you hit his legs, an orange bar will fill up. When it's full, the robot will need to vent, and that's when you can do damage. He goes through a whole lot of different phases, and you need to watch out as he throws different attacks at you. Beating Pax certainly puts you in the right mood for the rest of the game.
Enforce maximum healing measures. Dispensing sentence.
Ultimate sacrifice is sublime. Now draw.
You can take that to your grave.
No More Heroes is a great over-the-top action series that gained a cult status over the years. It also had a very difficult first boss in the form of Death Metal. He may only be ranked 10th in the United Assassins Association, but he's still quite a handful. His huge sword does massive damage, so you need to avoid his swings. Also, make sure you keep charging your beam katana in that special Travis kind of way.
Chill running down my spine like it's trying to suck the life out of me. Before I get this out.
He will send copies of himself after you, but just stay focused on the real Death Metal. As long as you keep dodging his attacks, you'll be able to beat this challenging first boss. Nier Automata is an amazing action game with a very interesting story. It can also be pretty challenging at times, especially on higher difficulty levels. The first boss is a huge Goliath disguised as an oil tanker. The fight is incredibly long as the boss goes through multiple phases. He can kill you instantly with just one shot if you're playing on hard. What makes it worse is the fact that there's no save option before the boss fight. So that means you will lose over an hour of progress if you die in this battle. It surely makes the action pretty intense in a very brutal kind of way. The Legend of Zelda's Skyward Sword for the Nintendo Wii is definitely one of the more difficult Zelda games out there. It has a very challenging first boss in the form of Jirahim. He is a main antagonist in the game that has some good character development. He is introduced as a badass and barely shows signs of weakness. What makes this fight hard is the fact that you are still getting used to the motion controls for sword fighting. This tough guy teaches you to block and swing your sword correctly, or makes sure you die trying. You might laugh at the idea of us finding Barrett from Deus Ex Human Revolution difficult. However, imagine facing this first boss of the game with a single grenade, stun gun, and tranquilizer rifle. That's how screwed we were on our non-lethal playthrough of the game. Taking this guy on without any high-powered weapons can be a real challenge. You need to keep running around and throwing barrels like Donkey Kong. They actually fixed this fight in the director's cut of the game. There they gave non-lethal players the option to hack turrets. Now that would have saved us a lot of frustration the first time we faced him. The boss fights in Borderlands 2 can be rather difficult if you don't know what you're doing. The first boss in the game is called Knuckledragger, and he can be a real challenge. In the beginning of the fight, this huge bully mong will stick to throwing rocks and bits of ice at you. All you can do at this point is circle around and keep landing headshots. At about half of his health, he'll change up his attacks and send some minions after you. The boss does get a whole lot easier when you're teamed up with other players or have some decent weapons. However, without any of those luxuries, you'll be in for quite a battle. The Dark Knight goes toe-to-toe with the biggest villains in Batman Arkham Asylum. The first boss is no pushover either, as you need to take on the massive Bane. Your priority in this fight is staying alive, so avoid Bane's charge attacks and quickly beat the henchman he sends after you. You have to let Bane run into the wall a few times until his health bar is nearly depleted. Only when Bane is at the end of each bar of health can you quickly land your attack and retreat. This fight can be incredibly difficult, especially when you're playing on hard.
You wasted your time!
We absolutely love every moment of Resident Evil 7. This first-person survival horror game finally made the series scary again and gave us a few intense boss fights. The first fight against Jack Baker immediately set the tone in terms of difficulty. We tried taking him out with a normal handgun and died more than a couple of times. However, we later discovered it's actually much easier to get into the car and simply run over him. It's kind of amazing that the developers managed to make this boss fight so dynamic. Derrick the Executioner is the first real test of your combat skills in Neo, and it's very easy to be killed in this battle. First off, it's very hard to see anything in this dark and rainy setting. The boss has two forms and will start off with strong but slow attacks. You need to dodge his powerful swings and attack him from behind.
It's time for your execution.
After a short cutscene, you'll be thrown into battle against his much more difficult second form. Derrick is clearly not happy and he moves a lot faster this time around. However, stay patient and you'll be able to take him down for good. The Hell Boss in The Witcher is insanely difficult, especially when you're playing on hard. This first real boss in the game keeps sending groups of other hounds at you. The biggest challenge in this fight is keeping your witch companion alive, as she doesn't have a lot of health. To make matters worse, this boss likes to stun lock you, which is a very cheap tactic in any game. There you have it, 10 more opening bosses that completely wiped the floor with us. Did you also have difficulty beating these guys? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.